everyone, Linda Israel here, and today I have a junk journal that I'm working on that is using the Calico Collage Flowers and Lace Digital download. And I want to share that there are things that you can do at home to have a fabric cover. This is printed on white muslin fabric that has been ironed to a piece of freezer paper. So what I do is I get a length of muslin fabric, and then I'll go to my ironing board and I will iron it to the shiny side of the freezer paper. Then I'll use my cutting mat like this one here and a rotary cutter, and I will cut it to an 8.5 by 11 sheet so that it will run through my printer. Then I go to my printer and I tell it to print whatever it is I want. In this case, it was one of the journal page covers to full size. I ended up cropping out the Calico Collage information so it could be a little bit bigger. And now that I've got this cut out, I'm going to assemble the cover to my journal. Now what I've done is I have pre-cut my spine and my two covers to fit the journal pages. They are approximately about a 1/2 inch larger than my pages, so that it will help cover and protect those pages so they won't get damaged. I'm going to do this as a two-part on my cover, in that I've got a piece of printed fabric here. It's got a little pink flower, little dot in pink, and then the green leaves. And I'm going to use that to cover my chipboard first. Now when I say chipboard, this can be a cereal box. It could be chipboard that you purchase. Mine is kind of thin, but I like this weight because it doesn't make the journal super heavy. And so what I'm doing is I'm laying out this fabric, and I think if I do it this way, I have plenty, and I'll just have to trim it. That if I lay these out with a little bit of a space between each of the cover pieces, you always want to lay out a little bit of a space there so that your book can open and close and not buckle on you. So now that I've got that pretty much in the center of this, I don't need that much fabric, so I'm going to slide this down just a little bit closer to one side, and then I'll trim once I've got these glued into place. Now I like to use tacky glue to help adhere things, and then I'm going to use my sewing machine on this particular cover. So I've got some Aleene's tacky glue, and I'm going to put a nice little bead all the way around the edge here. And then I'll do a zigzag down the middle, and I'll place this on my fabric. Then I'll pick up the next one and I'll repeat until I have all three pieces glued into place. Now that I've got the three pieces glued to my chipboard, what I'm going to do is just trim the fabric. I'm about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to fold over the corners and put a dollop of glue. This will help finish my journal when I fold over all the edges. So there is the beginnings of my cover that is going to be on the outside. Now the next thing that I need to do is I need to trim these pieces here so that they will fit on my cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my paper cutter because it is a rotary wheel that is on it, and I'm going to get this out of the way for a second. cut right down the center. And then I'm going to cut off the white space on each end. Now my cover is approximately 7 3/4, so I want to make this about 7.5 inches. If I lay this on here and cut off the excess that I don't need. So I've cut my pieces of fabric to fit on my cover for the front and the back. And what I like to do to help hold it in place is I'll use a little bit of glue to hold it in place until I can sew it down. And in this case, my adhesive or glue is going to be my ATG gun. So I'm just going to put a couple of lines of tape on here. Well, if I had my gun loaded correctly. What I like to do is add a little bit of glue onto my page or the fabric to keep it in place. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this Aleene's glue. I'm not using a whole lot. I just want it to somewhat stay in place until I get it sewed. I've got a little bit of lace that I think what I want to do is sew on the cover here. I'm trying to see which way I want to put it. I'm trying to decide if I want to put a piece of ribbon over it. I think I'm just going to do the lace. I'm just going to put this in my sewing machine and do a zigzag stitch all the way around. So I've added just a little bit of lace on the front cover here. And I think what I'm going to do on the back is just zigzag stitch around it. So there is my cover with the fabric added to it. What I want to do now is add something to the inside. So I think what I'm going to do is use some paper to line the inside. I found this rose print in my stash. It's from a paper stack. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll cut pieces out of this to put inside my journal. I'm just going to cut this just a little bit taller than 7.5 inches. And then I believe this will be 5.5 inches. Let me make sure. So that I'm not wasting paper, I'm going to use this little strip here to line the inside of my journal in the spine area. Get these all going the right direction. I don't mind that the spine is not going to be going the same direction, but I do want it wider than my spine so that it overlaps. So if I make this at approximately 3 inches wide, I think that's right. Yeah, 3 inches wide. And then the same height as the other pages, which was just over 7.5. So this will go in my cover. What I like to do is glue down what will be over the spine first and then glue the other pieces to hold it in place so it'll look all nice and neat. I'm just going to use my Aleene's tacky glue to glue this down. I'm just running the bone folder in the crease where the book cover and the spine join together so that the book will fold and open easy. If you don't do that, it'll buckle. So this will just ensure that it's going to be nice and neat and lay flat. I have a couple of little handmade pockets that I made using my Cricut to cut the fence panel. I used some ribbon across here. This was some old vintage images that I had that I fussy cut out, and then I adhered the whole thing to an old book page. I used my distressed ink, and I also sprayed it with some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. So I'm just going to pop these on the front and the back covers. It's always important before you glue down that you make sure you have your journal going in the right direction. So there's my beginnings of my cover. The other things that I'm going to do to it is after I have bound my pages. So I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So now what I'm going to do is I have my template that I've made. Basically, I cut a piece of paper that's about the width of my spine. I will mark the halfway point, and then I'll fold down or mark about a inch and a half, inch and a quarter from the top, and then mark it with dots so I know where to punch my holes. I've got an awl here, and I've picked up a couple pieces of fun foam to lay on my table so I don't have to worry about marring my cutting mat with a hole. And I'm just going to punch holes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now I'll go ahead and make these a little bit bigger by pushing my awl through really well. So that way when I go to use the needle, it's easy to find the hole. So the holes are in there. I need to put my signatures together in my journal as well. I like to use giant paper clips. So here's what I do is I find the center of my journal, where that's going to be, and make sure that all my pages line up where I want them. And then I'll use these giant paper clips to help hold these papers in place so they don't shift. And I'll do that on all 3 signatures that are going to be in this book. Now, using my same template, and I'm using my bookbinder's cradle that my husband made for me, I'm placing this down in the center, and I'm going to use my awl and poke 3 holes, 1 in the center and 1 on each end. And then because I'm using my template, these will line up in my journal. So there's 1, and then I'll do the other 2. Alright, here's what I like to do with my waxed linen thread. You can use other things to bind your journals. You can use crochet thread, you can use embroidery floss, you can use a real fine twine or baker's twine. I prefer the waxed linen thread because it's stronger and it doesn't seem to stretch and make your book really loose. So what I do is I figure out 1, 2, and 3. Since I'm doing 3 signatures, I'll cut this 3 times. So I'll start with my first one. I like to cut it free from the roll so it's easier to manipulate. And I'm going to decide which of these is going to be in my center. And I think I want this one in my center. Make sure that I have it going right side up. Yes. I've got the center here. I'm going to find the center hole, and then I will match it up to the center hole on the spine. It'll come out to the outside. You'll pull through, but you want to make sure that you don't pull the tail all the way through, so leave a little bit of a tail on the inside. And I'm going to go up to this top hole and go down to the inside. Sometimes trying to see it through the fabric on the front isn't always the easiest. Alright, so I went through the center, out to the outside, up to the top, and now I'm going to go back through the center again. So I'm having a hard time seeing the hole, so I used my awl to help me. So I'm on the outside, now I'm going to the inside. I'm going to pull these tight, and I'm going to slip my needle under the first stitch, and then I'm going to pull these in opposite directions, making sure there's not any slack on the inside or the outside. And I'll tie this into a square knot, and then I'll tie another square knot. Now what I like to do with my strings is attach some little punched shapes. In this case it's a butterfly. So I'll take a dollop of glue and add it to the butterfly. I'll use the string to help spread the glue around just a little bit and to help hold that string into place by coating it in glue. I'll take a second butterfly and make a little sandwich. I hope you enjoy watching my videos. If you do, if you will please like, comment, and subscribe. Sharing with your friends also helps. Every action that you put onto my channel helps me be seen by other people. So if you take the time and give it a like, and then of course leave a comment, I would greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in hanging out with like-minded people on Facebook group that love junk journals and the junk journal process and papercraft, please join my friendly junk journal people on Facebook. The link is in the description box. It's a great way to connect with other people. We have swaps and we show live videos in the group. So it's just a lot of fun to fellowship with other people that like junk journals. So I have done the first signature, and I will go through and add the other two signatures now. I have a piece of ribbon here that, or not ribbon, lace. It's the same lace I used around here, and I'm just wrapping it around and tying it in place. And then I will adhere it down with some trim that I'm going to add to the journal. So I'm just going to figure out what's the best way for this to be placed on here as far as positioning, and then I will use some Aleene's tacky glue to put it in place. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue this down and then let it dry. I've got the flower on the spine, and one last thing that I want to do is I have made a little charm, and I'm going to use a hole punch and see if I can't get right in here and punch a hole just a little ways from the edge. Gotta have some strength, but I got it punched. And then I have made this little charm bangle, if you will. It's got a butterfly charm and some butterfly beads and a little flower and some pink. If you're interested in knowing how I made this, let me know. I am getting all the supplies ready so I could do a tutorial and show you how to make this, if that's something that interests you. Now, I used a really large lobster claw on here, and I'm going to use this to hook it to the journal directly, so that if you get the journal home and you want to take that off and add it to your keychain, you can do that. But I just thought it was kind of fun to add it on here. So let's quickly do a flip through of this journal. As I showed you in the making of the journal, the cover is a fabric cover that is printed with the Calico Collage flowers and lace, one of the cover images. I will have a link to my blog post in the description, as well as links to Calico Collage's shop. I have sewed that on and added lace, and then let's look at the inside. I haven't put a tag in here, but I will put a tag before I list this in my shop. So we've got a Calico Collage image here. I have used Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist throughout. This was a Tim Holtz Pink Raspberry ink, and then one of the stamps from, I think it may be a Tim Holtz one. I just like the way that looked. Kind of remind me of a chandelier. Some of the images here are vintage images that I had in my stash, and I just put them on journaling cards. This is one of the freebies, I think it's a freebie, that Calico Collage offers, and I will put the link in there as well. This page here is part of my, what I call my spray box, and I use it for my mop-up. So I put in paper that has a letterhead on it that would be trash because it's no good anymore, and I let it soak up any glimmer mist, and then I use those as pages. This is one of my dictionary pockets that I've made. So there is a tuck spot here, 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 and here. So there's 4 places that you can put a card in, and I have included one of these cards. This was a scrap left over of some cardstock with roses on it. I thought it went well with this kit. I've made a portcullope from April at Pink Odd Bird, and then I made a little notepad. Again, these were just scraps that would have been thrown away, and I sewed them on with a little ribbon and some pink thread. There is a tuck spot here, or a pocket, and then a tuck spot behind the portcullope or origami pocket. This was a page out of an old book, and it was pieces that were left over, and so I just put some washi tape on it and distressed it. It is 2-sided, so it could go either way. This page is a coloring book page. This paper is some pink paper I've had in my stash, and I ran it through my printer and put lines on it. This is one of the cards from the journaling kit from Calico Collage. And then on this page, this was part of one of the pages, and I cut it off and added it to the edge. So there is a tuck spot here and a tuck spot there. If you can see, there's some sewing on the edge. It is a book page that I folded over and attached the lace looking paper on top. This is the page it came from. And if you kind of look down inside, you can see where I cut it off. Another one of the Calico Collage images. This was a big square doily, and I used the butterflies from the kit and put one on top so you can add stuff down in there. Another one of the cards from the kit. Another one of my pages that I added on the edge, but this time I sewed a piece of fabric over the edge. Here's a little card. This is a card that was in a card set of tags that I got years ago from Big Lots for $1, and they were oversized tags, and I hadn't really done anything with them, but I thought these would be perfect to journal upon. So I attached those to a back or a piece of a map, and I slipped it over the edge of the page. If wanted, it can be untied, used, and then put back in. In the center of this signature, you can see that I have little butterflies again. There are 10 pages per signature, 30 pages total. So 4 times 30 makes 120 pages total in this journal. More of the Calico Collage. This is the other half of the page where I trimmed the edge off and then I covered it up with the book page. This is one of the cards from the kit as well. This is another one of the jars from the freebie. I used my silhouette to cut that out. Lots of journaling space. Here's those tags. So when we showed this tag, this is the same tag, and I just trimmed it so that it would fit in this tuck spot. When the card was the full size, it would not fit inside this little tuck spot that I made. Another one of the cards. It's a pocket here. That was the first signature. Here is the second signature. Another petecolope. Another one of the tags. Journal card. I like the graph paper with the glimmer mist on it. Here is one of the envelopes and a card I made to go inside from the kit. This was leftover Canvas Corp Brands Ivory cardstock. It's a really nice cardstock, and I love how it looks when you use it. I love this coloring book page with the roses on it. I thought this would be perfect to put in the journal. You can color on that page if you like, and then you have the back side to journal. Here's another one of the doily pages that I made, and this is a card from Calico Collage. Here's another one of the pockets I made. One of the spray pages. I've attached one of the Calico Collage pages to it. This was an image that I had in my stash as well, and I printed it on cardstock and used some Tim Holtz distressed ink around the edges. This is another card that I made, again, using scraps that were left over. Pink butterflies, another one of the tags. This one I took and trimmed the flowers that were in the corner. You can kind of see where it was. And I put it on top of a book page so that you could have a pocket. And again, another tag that I ended up trimming so that it would fit on this page. Another one of the dictionary book pages. I love the way this lattice looks on here. This is another vintage image that was in my digital stash that I've had for years, and I printed it on cardstock. Another petecolope. There's a pocket here as well. Used fabric on here. The fabric that you see that I've put in this journal were all scraps. These were scraps that someone else had given me that they were going to throw away, and I used them in the journal. Another dictionary pocket. I just love these Calico Collage images. Aren't they beautiful? Another side of the doily pocket. I tried to glue that butterfly on. I put plastic in there to keep it from sticking, but I didn't leave it long enough. There's another one of the Calico Collage cards. One of my cards. Another page with it over the edge. Oh, I didn't show you the right page. They stuck together. I love the way this turned out. I trimmed this off the edge and then put the pocket on the side, and I love the way that looked, and I attached it to one of my mop-up sheets. Here's another one of the Calico Collage images. This is a tuck spot here that you can put underneath. And then that is the end. And I have a few cards here. I don't know if they'll fit. So let me see. Let me test. Got two little cards. I think it fits. I have another one. It fits. It's kind of like a cat. If it fits, it sits. And then here is the full cover with the little dangle on there. I hope you enjoyed seeing this version of a journal using fabric for the cover that you can print on fabric, the various things that I used inside. Go ahead and leave a comment below if you have questions. Check out my store link if you're interested in purchasing this, or send me a message if you want a custom journal made, because I can do that as well. Thanks so much for watching today. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Have a fabulous day. Bye!